This is obviously a serious concern, right, and something which does need to be addressed. However, isn't this whole argument being absolutely undermined this morning by what the Labour Party has put out on Twitter, saying, do you think adults convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison? Rishi Sunak doesn't.
Well, no, I don't think it's been undermined by that. I'm on here to talk about those figures, which I think are incredibly alarming to most of your viewers. Which is looking at not just the conviction rates, but the sentences handed out for some really serious offences. So yes, firstly, as you say, those who've been convicted of producing, making or sharing child pornographic material over the last few years, over 16,000 people who've been convicted of those crimes have been given community or suspended sentences and thereby avoiding custodial sentences. In addition to that, we've also uncovered figures that show those who've been convicted of child sexual abuse in the last few years, over 4,000 of those have escaped custodial sentences. And I think these are really alarming figures for serious crimes, which your viewers will be, I think, appalled by. And what they speak to, and the reason that we're highlighting them, is because the criminal justice system is now so creaking at the knees. There are court backlogs of over 60,000 cases. We've got very high reoffending rates. We've got overcrowded prisons. And what that's doing altogether is leading to judges and others issuing non-custodial sentences to deal with these backlogs and to deal with the overcrowding in cases where otherwise they would be issuing custodial sentences, and that's what we're highlighting today. And that graphic you show is just one of many ways that we highlight these issues, and we talk about them on your programme.
Yeah, all right, but according to this, as you mentioned there, 4,500 adults convicted of sexually assaulting children under 16 serve no prison time. Apparently, so we're told that figure comes from 2010 when Rishi Sunak was a hedge fund manager, and you're saying Rishi Sunak doesn't think children should go to prison. This is gutter politics, isn't it?
That figure is every year is added together every single year of the last 13 years of the Conservative government, of which Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister. He is accountable for his government's record and for his government's policies and for what is happening under his watch. He is the Prime Minister of the country. So it's personal in the sense that he's the guy that the book stops with, and he's responsible for all of these things and for the entire record of their 13 years of government. So it's not 1 year, it's not the figure taken from 1 year ago, 13 years ago, it's all the figures added together over the last 13 years. And by the way, some of these figures are set to get worse over coming years, because what we're seeing now is a real massive increase in the sort of court backlog and that being dealt with, and these reoffending rates going up, and the prisons are now full. So we're hearing anecdotal and other evidence all the time from courts around the country where judges are actually openly saying now, I would issue a custodial sentence, but I can't because the prisons are full and other things. So these are issues that we think are so profound and so important and so alarming that they need attention giving to them. And that's why we're uncovering these figures.
Lucy, look, I don't think anyone would agree with you that the criminal justice system needs overhauling, and the figures are appalling. However, Labour often accuse, the Conservative of using a rhetoric that is inflammatory, especially around the small boats issue. Surely this Twitter advert basically accusing Rishi Sunak of being on the side of criminals rather than the population it's rhetoric that is completely wrong. It's actually detracting from the issue we should be talking about.
Well, look, it's a graphic, a digital campaigning graphic. I didn't design it. I didn't, put it up there. But it's a digital graphic that's based on. It's like a skit, if you like, or a take on the types of graphics that the Prime Minister himself produces about his own policies, and he's become famous for producing these graphics.
No.
And so
Lucy Powell,
it's a take on that.
This isn't a skit. Look, even Twitter itself has had to put a fact check on this, saying the tweet implies that the Prime Minister does not support prison sentences for sexual assaults against children. The current sentencing guidelines has a maximum sentence of 14 years imprisonment. You're implying Rishi Sunak does not think adults convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison. Now, that is just not accurate, is it?
But under his watch as Prime Minister, under his government over the last 13 years, we have seen thousands of people who have been convicted of serious child offences, sexual offences and child pornographic material offences, not receiving custodial sentences. And that is what is happening under his watch as Prime Minister. So if it's personal in the sense that he's the guy who runs the country. He is the Prime Minister, and the book does stop with him. And we are highlighting these issues and these problems in our criminal justice system because we think they really need tackling. The probation service, stopping reoffending, stopping this cycle of crime, dealing with the backlog in the courts, but also, dealing with crimes that are taking place. So I'm sure you've covered it before on your programme. Last year alone, over 1 million burglaries and thefts weren't even investigated by the police. And that's why we want to see 13,000 more neighbourhood police officers coming in, which is a policy we've developed, a fully costed policy that we've developed as well. And that's what we are highlighting. Twitter is not the real world. No. I'm sure GB News is more the real world than Twitter is in that sense.
Lucy,
and this is an official... just one device that we are using to highlight these issues.
Yeah, but this is an official tweet by the Labour Party, and you are basically implying the Prime Minister of this country actually is on the side of paedophiles. I mean, do you not think that the Labour Party owe Rishi Sunak an apology over this?
I don't think that's what the graphic is implying. People will make different interpretations, and it's not to everybody's taste. I can see that it's not to yours, and that's perfectly understandable. But what we are highlighting is that under the Conservative government, of which he is the Conservative Prime Minister of that government, we are seeing now a situation where custodial sentences are not being given to serious offenders where they should be because the system can't cope with it. And he is responsible for that, and he is accountable for that, and he has questions to answer about that.
But, and that is right. There is a concern, and questions do need to be asked. But looking at this, I mean, if this was aimed at Keir Starmer, you'd call it dog whistle politics, wouldn't you?
I'm not sure it's dog whistle politics. I don't know what you mean by that in this context. This is because he's the Prime Minister that his image has been used. He's the Prime Minister of the country, and it's a similar type of graphic to one that he often puts out himself. But look,
forgive me.
I do understand what you're. Forgive
me for interrupting. And I know it's hugely frustrating. I do, but you're trying to get across the point that people are thinking, because this is a huge Twitter row over this now. It's not that you've used the graphic. It's not that you've used. You've highlighted what is a serious issue. It's the fact you've said Rishi Sunak doesn't think adults convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison. Well, that's just a lie, isn't it? How on earth do you... Yes, you can hold him to account. He's the Prime Minister. You can hold him to account. But to say the Prime Minister doesn't think adults convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison just isn't honest truth.
Well, look, they're not my words. They're not words I've chosen. But what I am saying to you, as somebody who's been asked to talk about the issues that we are highlighting today, regards to these huge figures that we are unveiling, is that these serious offenders Some of them are not getting the custodial sentences that they should be. And that is a direct result of policies and actions that the Conservative government, of which Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister of, have taken over recent years, privatising the probation service, not having enough police on the beat to deal with crime and antisocial behaviour issues, not doing enough to tackle this cycle of, especially of serious criminals, this cycle of reoffending. So we're just seeing constant stream of the same people coming in and out of prisons. And
Lucy,
they closed down 250 of our Crown courts over recent years, which has led to this big backlog. And these are policies and actions which this government has taken, which has now led to a system
for interrupting again. Look, we agree the statistics and the facts are horrific, and I'm sure pretty much everyone watching and listening this morning will have experienced some sort of crime in their life and be as horrified by the recent reports that we've all seen. But you say the buck stops with Rishi Sunak, even though these figures go back to 2010 when he was a banker and therefore had nothing to do with these, some of these statistics involved. The buck stops with the leader, OK? So this tweet, which, sorry, personally I find deeply offensive, given that you're saying this about a father of two little girls, the buck stops with the leader. So the buck for this tweet stops with Keir Starmer. Do you think he should apologise to Rishi Sunak that this is out on social media?
No, I don't think he should apologise. You know, these are election graphics. These are political graphics, which, as
it's
I say,
election lie.
not something that I designed or wrote.
So you don't agree with it? You don't agree with it, Lucy?
What it is speaking to is a serious issue, which we are now discussing on this programme. You know, and I'd like to discuss further, rather than a sort of Twitter row that's happening elsewhere, around serious issues to do with our criminal justice system and the fact that it is broken, and it is broken because of direct policies that have been pursued by this government, and that is something that they should be accountable for and they should take responsibility for.
Look, we're just about out of time. We appreciate you've been with us a long time this morning. However, can I just ask you about something a little bit different? It's all over the papers as well this morning, about the royal family, links to slavery all being looked at and all the rest of it. Does the Labour Party think, you know, if all this is proved, if you like, that the royal family should pay reparations?
Well, you're making several leaps there, but, you know, I personally welcome the fact that these inquiries are taking place, and that the royal family have opened up all their archives and are sort of fully cooperating with it, because the slave trade and that whole era of our history, you know, is a big black mark on the history of the world, but also the history of the British Empire and what we did at that time, and we should always be looking for answers and accountability, but particularly to learn those lessons of history and make sure that things like that don't ever happen again.
Lucy Powell, really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much indeed.